Monte Tower, diamondstar 661 Delta Sierra, holding short runway 19 for a northwest departure.
Diamondstar 661 Delta Sierra, Monte Tower, stand by.
Stand by 1 Delta Sierra.
Diamondstar 1 Delta Sierra, runway 19 clear for takeoff, right down with departure approved.
Runway 19 clear for takeoff, 1 Delta Sierra.
Welcome to another episode of Mojo Grip. Mike here. So today I'm going to talk to you about some of the close calls that I've had as a pilot. Now, I'm a very low time pilot, and if you talk to others who have been building time or who fly a lot more often than I do, I'm sure they have a few stories to tell. But in my experience, I've had two really close calls that I was like, wow, I could have died. Okay, so the first one, I was a student. I was on my first cross-country flight. Now, typically as a student pilot, part of your requirements is you have to complete a long cross-country flight and a short cross-country flight. So on this day, I was doing my short cross-country flight. And I remember I was flying to French Valley from El Monte and then back to El Monte. And I remember that day, at first it was a little bit foggy, you know, it wasn't all that clear skies, but the flight for the most part went really well. I was nervous like anyone would, but this was actually on my way back. So I started the day off, the flight to French Valley was pretty non-eventful. I was able to talk on the radio, feel safe about myself. And then so on my way back, now get this, usually when you're flying back or when you're going to any destination airport, you have to call into the radio. You have to speak to ATC when you're close enough to your destination airport and let them know, hey, this is where I am, this is what I'm trying to do, I might clear to land. Basically, you have to call in and let them know that, hey, I'm coming in to land, and so they can have you on site to make sure you have a safe landing. Okay, so, and typically I usually call in when I'm within about 6-7 miles away from the airport, sometimes maybe even 10-12 miles. But when I'm close enough, I would call in and let them know, hey, this is where I'm at. And so I would say 4 to 5 miles out of El Monte at this point. Basically, I've completed 90% of my trip, and I was just trying to come into land. And that's when this happened. I was coming in, and all of a sudden, I see this whoosh just flew by me. And this was to my left side, okay? And that really shook me. For a moment, I was like, holy shit. Holy shit, that could have turned really bad. And I remember the aircraft that flew past me was a high-wing airplane, so I just assumed that it was probably a Cessna. I couldn't tell if it was a 172 or 152, but it was a high-wing airplane. And it was so close to me that I saw the complete, usually when you're flying, you try to keep everybody off. Like you try to leave as much space between you and the next aircraft, okay? That way you avoid any type of collision or something going wrong. But this aircraft was so close, and a lot of times when you see another airplane flying in the skies with you, it's usually at a distance, and I hope that's the case, except maybe you're doing some type of formation flying. But typically you're seeing an airplane at a distance, so it's got to be really tiny. But this aircraft was so close that I could see the entire thing like it was on the ground. But it lasted for like a split second. And I thought to myself, holy crap, that could have ended really badly. And also I remember the airplane merged to their right side. So I could see the airplane kind of went like this when it flew past me. And when I thought about it, actually after I landed, I was like, I just tried to process what just happened. And I thought to myself, what did I do wrong? And what I could have done better. And so this is what I remember happening. That airplane, the first thing that I believe I did wrong was just like on the ground when cars are driving, you have one car going this way, you have another going this way. And I thought to myself, I probably should have not been on this side of the airspace. I should have been on the other side. Because generally speaking, when you're coming into land at El Monte, this is an airport that I've done hundreds of landings at. If you're coming in from the east, then you typically would do like a straight in landing, or you do a left base. So this is the airport right here, and you're coming in from here. So this is your base. You come in base, and then you turn left to land. And generally speaking, for you to do that, it means you kind of have to be on this side. But on this day, I was still on this side. I thought I had enough time to get back to the other side and then do a left base in or a straight in. But again, I was still a student pilot at this time, and I probably did not know better. But I thank God, because that was a really close call. Because when you think about it, you're coming in on this side to land. That means that whoever's taking off from that same runway is coming on this side. And so I was basically in the way of people taking off and, going east. And so that was the first thing I thought that I did wrong. The second thing was maybe I could have called in ATC and spoken to ATC sooner. I just thought I had to be much closer to the airport before I called in. And actually this event taught me that lesson. So before I thought, okay, I would probably wait until I'm really close to the airport before I call in. But then I learned that no, you should call in when you're miles away and let them know that you're coming in. So that's the second lesson I learned. And the third one was, because I spoke to my instructor about this. So the rule of thumb is, if you're facing another airplane, if you're face to face coming in with another airplane, the rule of thumb is everybody should merge or turn to their right side to avoid a collision. And I can tell that the other pilot definitely did that. And hopefully he was the one who saved both our lives by merging right. And I didn't know any better. I was just way too shook to realize what just happened. And so for anyone out there, if you are flying and you realize or you see an airplane coming towards you, the rule of thumb is to turn right to help avoid any type of collision. And I'm grateful to whoever that pilot was or is that merged right to save our lives, because it happened so fast that I didn't know what to do, and I had to kind of pick myself up, and I'm like, I gotta land this airplane. But that event again taught me a good lesson. The last lesson it taught me was that when you're flying, if you're in a small airplane and you're flying, I don't think, for a lot of us, you may not realize how fast you're really going. And on that day, I realized how fast, just 80 knots, just going 75. Usually in the airplane I trained in, when you're coming into land, you're between 70 and 75 knots. That's about 80 or so or more miles per hour. And this airplane could have been going just 70, 80 knots, but that close to me, that was really fast. So whenever you're flying, just realize just even 80 knots, 90 knots, you're going really fast in the air. So that's the last thing that taught me. So I'm grateful nothing happened on that day, and I'm here to tell the story. Now, the second time I had a close call was, I remember it was me and my instructor on that day, and we were just going to a local airport, Brackett, to practice some landings. And Brackett is only about 5 miles east of us, directly east of El Monte. And usually when you fly out of El Monte, you do a left crosswind, and you fly straight to Brackett. And so on this day, nothing crazy. The sky was clear, and we were just on our way to Brackett. And so generally when you are close to Brackett, like any airport, you call in, you make sure you get to your pattern altitude before you come in and land. And so we were doing that. We were cleaning up the airplane, getting to our pattern altitude, all that good stuff. And so this is also how the geography is. So Brackett is directly facing us, right? Brackett runway is like this, and we're coming towards it. And usually when you're coming towards Brackett Airport from the west, you're to the to the right side of it. And so whoever's taking off from that runway is coming either straight, and make sure there's room between you two, that they're not coming towards you and you're not going towards them. So on this day, typical flight pattern, we were close to the runway, we were on the right side, and we saw this airplane take off. I was flying that day, my instructor was to my right side, and I could see the airplane directly to my left taking off, and it was another Diamondstar, okay? And for a moment there, what I remember was we were lower, we were at a lower altitude, because I can see it kind of like at the top of us. And then the next second I look, this airplane turned directly towards us. And it felt like, holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. And it was coming so fast. Again, you don't realize how fast you're going until you see another airplane close to you. And I looked at my instructor, I'm like, yo, that dude is coming directly at us, and he is coming really fast. And I freaked out. I freaked out that the instructor took the plane from me. He just dove us directly downward to the right to try and avoid that airplane. And the crazy thing about this is that in moments like this, you can't really talk directly to another pilot when you're in the air. Okay, your only point of communication at that point is just to talk to ATC, and then perhaps they could get in contact with the other pilot. But things were happening so fast that we had to do something to try and avoid any type of collision from happening. And I remember, again, just freaking out like crap. And again, the point of this story, honestly, the reason why I'm telling you this story is, as a pilot, one thing you have to keep in mind, you know, people fly for different reasons. You know, you can fly because it's fun, because it's just incredible. It's a whole different experience. But also, I tell people, fly as if you're paranoid. Be paranoid when you're flying, and put safety always. Because in moments like this, and here's a true statistic, most mid-air collision, most crashes that happens in mid-air happens in broad daylight. Okay, these two events were perfectly good days. It was not a bad weather where I couldn't see or the other pilot could not see. We all saw each other clearly. We could see from 10 miles away. All right, and so if you're flying on a clear day, if you're a VFR pilot, you may get a good sense of safety, which is good, but don't be too comfortable. Because sometimes you have pilots get comfortable and they react in a situation where it could be too late. I'm glad that I'm able to tell the stories as to what happened, but it could have turned out differently. And again, the biggest lessons I learned on these two occasions was, one, always look out. Always look out and be ready to take action. Don't be the one to react in the last minute, but take action before something happens. And again, especially as a VFR pilot, just because it's a clear day doesn't mean that everything is all smooth. You know, just like driving on the ground, people think of everybody else as an idiot. You know, people are gonna break rules. We're all gonna make mistakes as pilots. So always put that in mind. And so those are the lessons that I learned, and I would like to relate to everybody. Just please fly safe, keep your eyes open, constantly look, and act before something happens. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give a thumbs up. Again, my name is Mike. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for me if this is your first time. And guys, I'm on Patreon. Got some shirts on Teespring. Please check those out. And until next video, I will catch you on the next one.